All right, 11.5 goes over quadratic inequalities versus equations. So first, how do you recognize if it's a quadratic inequality? Well, one, it has to have the inequality sign, so these are both good. Quadratic has a highest exponent of 2. So this one has a 3, so it's not. This one, they're both 2's, so this is a quadratic. All right, 3 steps to solving. Step 1, solve like a regular equation. So if I had this one, x squared equals 1, I take the square root of both sides, so I get x equals positive or negative 1. Then you test a point between the solutions. So 0 is between negative 1 and 1. So I plug 0 in. Is 0 squared greater than 1? The answer is no. That lets us write our intervals. Since the answer is no, we can't have something between negative 1 and 1 that will work. So instead, we're outside those. So from negative infinity to 1 and 1 from infinity. So if the answer is no, you write a double interval. Now let's look at this one. If I subtract 1 from both sides, we have x squared equals negative 1. And then we go to take the square root, and we get I. Negative 1 we can't do, so there's no real solution. Because if it's never real, it's not going to show up on a number line. All right, let's do this one. We've got x minus 1 squared equals 0. Square root of 0 is 0. Add 1 to both sides, we get x equals 1. Here, there's only one solution. So instead of testing a point between, we're going to test a point below and a point above. So below 1 is 0. So 0 minus 1 squared is negative 1. Negative 1 squared is positive 1. 1 is not less than or equal to 0. So we know we're not less than 1. Let's try a number bigger. Well, 2 minus 1 is 1. 1 squared is 1. 1 is also not less than 0. So in this case, that is the only solution that works instead of an entire interval. Now, let's look here. We're going to solve this just like any other. So I'm going to tic-tac-toe. A, B, A times C. We get the factors, negative 10 times 3. Greatest common factor, multiply up, multiply across. We have 2x plus 1 and 3x minus 5. So if I make those equal 0, we get negative 1/2 and positive 5/3. To test a number that's in between, we can plug in 0. So is negative 5 greater than 0? The answer is no. So again, my intervals are going to be negative infinity to the smaller one, and then 5/3 to infinity. Notice up here I did parentheses. That's because this right here was just greater than. Here I did a bracket because this is greater than or equal to. All right, let's do one more. We're going to distribute this because we have to get all of these things away before we can solve it. I think life is easier when x squareds are positive, so I'm going to bring everything to the right. So negative x squared equals negative 18 minus 3x. And again, I'm just making it an equals because we're solving it like regular, so I don't need that sign in here confusing me. So now my A is positive 1, my B is negative 3, my C is negative 18. So A, B, A times C. The factors, greatest common factor, multiply up, multiply across. We get x plus 3x minus 6, which means we have a negative 3 and a 6. Those are our two solutions. If I plug 0 in as a test point, is 0 greater than negative 18? Yes. So this time we know the interval between the numbers is where our solution is. So we just have one interval from negative 3 to 6. All right, let's look at a real life problem. A rectangular building needs to be 7 feet longer than it is wide. See photo. So here's our width. Here's our width plus 7. That's all that's showing us. The area of the building must be at least 450 square feet. Well, area is length times width. So if I distribute that, I get x squared plus 7x. And we're saying it needs to be at least 450 feet. What are the possible widths? So same thing, we're going to solve this. Subtract 450 from both sides. X squared plus 7x minus 450 equals 0. I could tic-tac-toe if I wanted to deal with the factors, but I don't. So I'm just going to do the quadratic formula. B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. If I put that in a calculator, I get 18 and negative 25. So I'm going to test a number that's in between. I'm going to test 0. Is 0 greater than 450? The answer is no. So my intervals would be negative infinity to negative 25 and 18 to infinity. But we're talking about real life. You can't have negative widths. So this whole area isn't realistic. So these would be all the possible widths. Anything over 18 will give us the area we want. That is 11.5. Let me know if you have any questions.